On camera.
Good. With that, freshening up. Okay, so when you're looking for a cosplay photographer, you should definitely take advantage of the internet. Social media is definitely like Instagram, Facebook, whatever, Tumblr, whatever. I will say filter things to your general area. It's kind of hard to get pictures from someone who does not live in a location that you're willing to transport to. Facebook groups is another great one. So like I'm in the Daisho Con Goers group right now, and tons of people are posting like advertising for their photography and stuff. Another way is to get recommendations from friends. So like just talking about like people that they've worked with or people that you've heard about. Maybe like just get some reviews. Or just like talking to people at conventions is always a great way to find a photographer. If you see someone like doing good work and being respectful, then they might be someone to talk to about having your picture taken by. After you pick out a photographer or a couple that you might like, start looking at their portfolios. So generally a good photographer will have a good record of the pictures that they've taken, both edited and unedited, on their like Facebook pages, Instagram, their social media, or like files that they can send you of examples of their work. Get in touch and then stay in touch. Should also be up there. So like find out how much they're charging. Everybody does their pricing a little bit differently. Some do it by the hour, some people just do it at a general session or like have set prices. Find out what conventions they're going to, or if they're willing to do photos outside of conventions, where they would want to take photos, etc. Things to consider when you're looking at your, like going through all your photographer's information is how long you can expect the shoot to run, how long do they want to shoot for, how long do you want to shoot for, where you want to shoot it. So like you probably don't want to spend like 2 hours in like freezing cold weather, and I'm sure they don't want to either. So that's something to think about. When to pay. Some people like to be paid ahead of time, some people like to do like half and half, some like to be paid at the end. How to pay: cash, check, PayPal, Venmo, whatever way they want to. I will say that if you're going to use PayPal, definitely get an invoice. Don't just do friends and family, because if they like rip you off, you can't like, you don't really have a good way to retaliate. Make sure you know how many photos you're getting back. Some people will take like hundreds of photos and then only give you back 2. That is something to know beforehand. So you're not like getting 2 back and being like, wow, but like where's the rest of my photos? Also ask if something to think about is, do they shoot more than one person? Like, can you go with a friend and do like a couple's cosplay, or like do a group? Is there like extra fees for that? How they want to do that? How you feel comfortable doing that? What's their turnaround time? So how quickly will they get edited photos back if they are editing photos? That's always a good thing to know, so you're not waiting like six months, or you've ended up like me and not gotten photos back from several people. Screams, it's been years. Not that I paid them to do it, but I'm still salty about it and vow never to work with them again. Also, if you can bring a friend or helper, make sure you ask that, because if you don't know the person, and to make yourself the most comfortable, you probably want to bring a friend to help you. Or like if you have a really crazy wig or prop or something, you might want someone to help you carry that, manage your cosplay. Maybe someone's there to like repair things, or they helped make it, so they know like the best way to organize things so that nothing will break, or like just make you comfortable. So good photographers will give you direction when they're taking your photo. So they'll help organize you, both your costume and you, on how to pose to look good on camera. Something that you might think look good might not always look good from behind the camera, so they'll generally help out with that. But you should have pose ideas in mind. Just be aware that they might not always work out depending on location, lighting, etc. They will also show you the previews from the back of the camera. You might have to ask first, but you also should generally just make a habit of asking, so that they're not taking pictures of things that you don't want them to take pictures of, or like they're framing things in the way that you want them if you are looking to get something specific. They'll be super polite and professional, so they won't like, ditch you or bail, or, otherwise be also keep in contact and communicate before, during, and after the shoot. So before, basically is just like the meeting time, where, when, pricing, etc. During is more like, again, the whole like posing you, or just checking in that you're doing okay, that you don't need something during the shoot, or that you're comfortable. And then after, what those generally should be giving you progress reports on their editing, when they updates on expected turnaround time, things that worked well, things that didn't work well, making sure that you have all the feedback you need and you can give them all the feedback they need. They'll also consider your suggestions and requests. They should consider your suggestions and requests. If they don't, if they shut you down, and that's like not a nice thing to do in general, but like super something that you don't want in a photographer. They'll also let you, as I said earlier, bring a friend along, either just to make sure that you're comfortable or just to help you out. They should definitely be allowing you to do that, even if they aren't going to be like in the photos or anything. A not so good photographer will not talk to you whatsoever. It's covering points 1 and 2, so they won't have posing or direction tips, and they won't like communicate as far as pricing and all, location, turnaround, etc. Which also covers point number 3. Has a rather large watermark. This is, yeah, as it says, it's very subjective. Most photographers will have a very small watermark and won't obstruct you or your cosplay in the photo. If they do, that's not, I mean, it's personal preference. I don't think that they should do that personally, because that's just, the focus is supposed to be on you, not their watermark. Not, like, yes, they're doing a really good job, and they definitely should have recognition for that through their watermark, but I don't think that they should be going so far as to using you as a platform to promote their thing that far. And they won't give you every single photo they took, because generally they'll be taking like at least 100 photos per like location. Most people do, I know I do, and there's no way I would ever want or would like to get back hundreds of photos. That's just too much to sift through. Many of them will look the same anyways. It's a nuisance from both ends. Red flags, your personal safety is the most important thing. If you don't feel comfortable, bail. Like, tell them, hey, I'm not feeling comfortable, and if they refuse to cooperate with however you need to feel comfortable, then that's time to get out. You should be able to bring a friend, as I said earlier. They should be checking with you to make sure you're comfortable at all times. If you're not, you need to tell them, and you should feel okay about telling them. And they should also ask you before touching your cosplay, your props. You worked hard on it, or if you bought it, like you just don't want them to either get it dirty, accidentally tear something, accidentally break something. They should definitely be asking you before they touch anything of yours. Trust your gut. So if you feel something is really off, trust that feeling and get out of that situation. You need to communicate your boundaries beforehand. Everybody's a little bit different. And number one, people shouldn't make assumptions anyways, but make sure that they know what your boundaries are, and they should also give some boundaries of their own. So if somebody is really uncomfortable with a certain style of shooting, they should be telling you that, rather than like you don't want to like force that on them, but you also don't want them to shoot you in a way that you feel uncomfortable. The biggest red flag is when they don't let you see the back of the camera. You definitely might need to ask, but if they don't show you, if they refuse to show you, that means they're probably taking photos that they shouldn't be taking. That means they're taking photos that are probably inappropriate. It's a harsh reality. It happens. And it is a big red flag when they don't show you the back of the camera, because they aren't showing you, they aren't being honest and forthcoming with what they're shooting of you. As far as prepping for the camera, you should be doing as much work as you can before you get in front of the camera to make sure that your photographer doesn't have to do so much with the camera, or after and post in editing. So like for makeup, you want to go over the top, bigger is better, prevents shininess and light reflection, if you're using powders. It just makes it easier on the photographer to do editing as far as like light balancing and stuff. Also, it just makes your face stand out better, or whatever kind of, like if you're doing tattoo as like part of your makeup, it'll help that stand out. The darker and bigger it is. Costume fixes, make sure you finish your seams so you like don't have to like try to finagle and edit out all these like loose threads. Hide blemishes, so like if there's a stain or something, I guess, then try to fix that before you go in front of the camera instead of forcing your photographer to try to edit that out. Iron your costume. Wrinkles show up extremely well on camera. Iron your costume. Also, fix your props before, like you should always be doing prop maintenance anyways on things that you've brought around the convention or just brought around town. You should check to make sure that everything is where it needs to be and that it looks how it should be looking. Blemishes are extremely noticeable on camera, so they like show up very easily and they're not the easiest to edit out. So be sure to like conceal them if that's how you want to go about that. If you're okay with it, that's fine too. You do you. Something to consider is bringing an emergency kit, both for your wig and your costume and your prop. Anything basically that if something during the shoot goes wrong, like if you're posing in a way that like somehow does like rips your costume or damages your prop, like you've accidentally hit it against something while posing, you definitely don't want to like go through the rest. If that's something that you really wanted in pictures, you don't want to go through the rest of the shoot without it. So just, bring something to repair it if you need it. Also, just be punctual and be polite. Someone's taking their time out of their day to take your photo. Yes, you're paying them, but you should also be respectful of their time and their effort so that you get there on time. And just be nice. Be a good person. Alrighty.
Alright, time for me to present the posing section of this presentation. We got another meme here, you can pose. Alright, let's move on.
So, why is that in here? I forgot you put that.
Yes, I did put you in here, Holly. So, knowing your character is pretty important when trying to come up with a good pose. I should move here, I don't know. Keep your the personality of your character in mind. For example, if you're like very positive, very bubbly character, you normally pose in a very playful manner. If you're stern or a badass, you want to keep your posture straight. If you have glasses, can you do the anime glasses adjust thing that we all know and love? And we have, of course, Holly demonstrating here. Don't go for that, only Jill will see that. But we also have Elle with his signature turtle pose, or as I like to call it, Naruto, Sailor Moon. And the next slide will kind of go into, I'm gonna hit that, more iconic poses. These are the poses you generally want to copy if your cosplay character who has just sort of iconic pose. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, very, very iconic posing and very, very out there, as I know I would know. You got the studio sunrise pose where you're just holding the sword in front of the camera. That studio Gynax 2 with their classic Gurren Lagann stuff. My drill is the one that will pierce the heavens pose. That one too. Just keep in mind that it's not applicable in all scenarios. Not every character will have his or her pose that just makes it everyone's like, oh, that's like Asuka's pose or something like that. So that's sort of going back to the previous slide, keeping in mind characters' personality, their traits, things like that. Next slide.
When it says in location, you're not gonna hit that like, in the name of the moon, I shall punish you in a cafeteria. So like,
I don't know, maybe you could. You could.
I mean, if you're getting attacked in the lunchroom, yes, but like out of the blue, no, you're probably not gonna hit that in the cafeteria. Or like, in an office.
Yeah, and also practice makes perfect. Take a lot of selfies in front of the mirror. Well, yeah, in the mirror too, yeah, because you want to look good, basically. And it might seem silly of just you making faces or striking poses in front of the mirror and just taking pictures, but it helps. It helps you see which parts that you need to improve on, which parts of your pose you need to fix, things like that. Check your costume from all angles. Make sure that your costume doesn't interfere with your posing. By that I mean, if I were to stretch out my arms or something like that, is my costume flexible enough so that it can stretch along with it? Will it not break or tear or anything like that? If you stick your leg out too far, will you flash the camera? Things like that. Other ideas, you can look online, reenact fan art, see what other cosplayers have done. That's pretty, that can help a lot. And also your props, practice with them. There will be a later slide on props that kind of goes more in depth on that. But for now, yeah, this is an example of a cosplayer having a camera that is sort of related to that work of art up there, just like the camera pose. Right, next slide. All right, here we go. So if you pose over the top, that's usually a good thing. You want to make yourself sort of stand out, basically. Oh, unless if your character is not the kind of the person that stands out. That's the thing with posing. All these rules here are just more of rules of thumb and not something you should follow strictly, because characters vary. They have different poses, different personalities, different traits, all that stuff. Use your whole body. Don't forget about what your arms, your hands, your knees, your legs, your feet, shoulders, head, anything you're doing, and especially the idle hands rule. Avoid making just the dead hand. The dead hand's just like this, or it's just doing nothing basically. That's what we call the dead hand. Another thing is that it kinda ticks me off when I see people posing for pictures and they're just like this. The reason why is that this is just like a super, shut up, Hannah. Okay, so this is just a super generic thing to do, right? Like you see people do it all the time. It's not very creative. There's so many other things you could be doing with your hands. For example, you could be punching. You could have one hand in your pocket. You could be blowing someone a kiss. You could be pointing. You could be like, I don't know, slapping someone. I don't know, I just made that one up. But basically there are so many other things you could be doing with your hands. Always do something with your hands. Basically.
Even if like in some of these pictures they're not like super evident, but they're still putting like what I call energy in their hand. So you can tell that they're deliberately putting it in a certain position. They're not just like letting it hang wherever they feel.
For example, Maddie here is waving. Well, it's kind of like waving.
She has one hand waving and then the other hand's relaxed, but it's like very obviously she placed it there. She didn't just like leave her hand hanging.
Right.
You want idle hands, D-O-L, and not
Yeah, idle hands, not
idle hands.
Alright, adding one to the pun count.
Jazz hands.
And then we sort of have a rule of thirds where if the 3/4 angle is flattering, what that means is that when you're standing in front of the camera, you don't want to be like just directly your body in front of the camera like this. You want to turn to the side a little bit. It's more flattering that way, looks better. And also you don't want completely to the side either. Or unless if, it's purposely done like that, then I guess it's fine. Like I said, not all these rules are set in stone. Action poses. I'm talking about kicking, I'm talking about punching, I'm talking about the superhero landing. All those poses. Very dynamic, very like boom, like that. Jumping, these are pretty difficult. There was this one guy I saw in his photography showcase sort of. He was cosplaying Zenyatta from Overwatch, and one of his poses was his meditation pose in midair. And what he told me that he did was that he actually jumped in the air like that, and they had the picture taken right at the apex of his jump. And that was pretty dang impressive. But jumping takes a lot of practice. It's kind of hard to pull off. Other stuff include dramatic flips. Your hair. If there's a cape, like if you want your cape to be billowing in the breeze. Also pretty hard because, well, timing is everything. If you hit the next, you'll actually see, yeah, that's me and Alyssa. That was back last year, where she was making her gravity powers to make me fly through the air. That was fun. Props to Willis. And next slide. Alright, using your head. This is pretty important since, people are going to be focusing on your facial expression, what you're doing with your face and head. Head positioning. Look engaged. Well, unless if your character is not a very engaged person. You can look directly into the camera or away from the camera. Looking off to the distance is usually a good way of doing it. For example, if So like looking directly at the camera versus looking at a place just beyond the camera or the wall behind the photographer's head or something like that. Always try to focus on something. That's usually a good thing to do because, I mean, if you're just looking in any which direction, it's not going to look very good. Your mouth is also pretty important. Another thing that sort of irks me is when characters who are supposed to be, you know, really happy and really cheerful aren't smiling. They should definitely be smiling. Show those pearly whites. It's what they do in a show. Otherwise, keep your lips slightly parted. Exhale through your mouth. Mouth have a neutral face like that, and you'll be just fine. Oh, and turn towards the light source. That shows off your pose better. Yep, facial expression. Here we go. So this is what I consider to be very integral to posing. Match the character. Like I said before, practice makes perfect. And like if all else fails, as previously mentioned, a neutral expression, looking away from the camera, works well too. And also your head positioning matters. For example, if you look down like this towards the camera, it's more of a brooding face, more of a serious face. If your head is pointed up, it's more relaxed, more carefree kind of expression. Tilt to the side, that's more goofy, more maybe a bit more quirky, or just really cheerful in general. So for example, I have some examples here. We got Kamina. His face is kind of tilted down. He's got a very stern, badass look on his face. Very nice. Mina Shido from Boku no Hero. She's smiling, head tilted to the side. She looks happy, and that's what Mina is. So very nice. Toph, you already know, super badass. This face is the face of someone that you know is going to kick your ass, basically. The slight smile, the tilt towards the camera, very nice. We got Dio, Brando, crazy look in her eyes, the tongue sticking out. This person went all out with her Dio, and I think it's very nice. And then finally we have we have Sam, who has no idea what he's doing.
Sam, he legit does the same face in every single photo.
I've been bringing up all the photos from that photo shoot.
Yeah, and I eventually just yelled at him to do something else with his face, and then he gave me that face and said, "I don't know what I'm doing with my face."
Also, can we go back to hands real quick? Because I was just looking at the photos from
Yeah,
that
sure.
photo shoot. Well, you don't have to actually go back. But I was looking at the photos from that photo shoot.
Oh.
And if you're like doing photos with other people, I don't know if this is touched on later, but if you're doing photos with other people, like one, you should know each other's boundaries, but two, also like don't be awkward. Because there was a hand of him with his arm over me, and it's the worst ghost of a hand. Like you didn't want to touch my
Like you can legit tell that there was about a good 3 inches of space between his hand and her shoulder.
Like if you're gonna try and
like,
take romantic photos for cosplay, you're gonna have to get close.
like not to
Yeah, know your
drag
boundaries.
Sam,
Know your
but
boundaries.
If you're
boy oh boy,
uncertain-
does that boy not know how to pose.
If you're
I have to
uncertain,
yell
it
at
doesn't
him.
Man,
ask.
why didn't he come here? I could have taught him. We could have
I
taught
mean,
him a
we could've
lesson.
taught him
BS
so
roasting
much.
him.
I just, every time I have to take his picture, I have to yell at him all the time.
He's getting better. He's getting better.
He is
Oh,
getting
yeah.
better.
Wait, go back one more. Go back. Yeah, and also makeup, as previously mentioned, helps you look better on camera, but can also help your facial expression. For example, eyeliner or your lips, shadows, things like that. And then we have props. Like if you have a prop, show it off to the camera. That's the thing that you worked a lot on, so you obviously want people to look at it, so show it off as you wish. Angle it and don't point it directly at the camera. The Megumin here isn't pointing it directly at the camera, she's pointing it at an angle a little bit above the camera. Because if you're pointing it directly at the camera, all you're going to see is just like
A line.
a line of brown, and that's not looking good with it.